Hi everyone, welcome today. It's super fantastic to have you guys here. I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to find this and to get sort of set up and ready to go before we dive into. Remember, today we are talking all things fireworks, so it's going to get a bit explosive in here. Hot and beautiful and sparkly. I should stop immediately with the puns. Okay. But I'm really excited for you guys to join me. It's going to be tons of fun. When you get on board here, just make sure you pop a hello. So I know I'm not speaking to a totally empty room. And of course, anybody who's hopping into the replay, just also pop me a hello. It's just nice to know when you guys see this and all that kind of jazz. I'm going to pin it up to the featured. I'm sorry for before we had a bit of a false start. I thought I was in the wrong group, but I wasn't. I was in the right group. So I thought I was in the right group, but I was in the wrong group for the challenge. So anyway, but today this is where you want to be because, as I said, we're talking all things fireworks, and who doesn't love to take amazing photos of fireworks? I know I do. If you haven't managed to take an amazing photo of a firework yet, then hopefully this is your day. So it's awesome to have you guys here. Woot, woot, woot. Hello. All my favorite people are here today. Hi, JL. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Connie. Hi, Paula. Hey, Karen. Oh, my goodness. You guys are amazing. Yo, Judith in the house. It's awesome to have you guys here. You know what I think is really funny about this is that every single one of these people actually already has access to the fireworks module in our course. Hey, David. And so you guys already know how to take photos of fireworks, but that's okay because today's going to be tons of fun. Hey, Anne. Hey, Courtney. So good to see you guys here. Thank you for hopping on with me. Love it, love it, love it. It's fantastic news. All right, team. Hey, Brenda. Good to have you guys here. Awesome. So today, again, we are talking all things fireworks. If you're watching the replay, make sure you're hopping on and having a chat with me on the replay, which is going to be fun. Hey, Nicole. Oh my goodness, it's so nice to see you again or hear from you again or have you on my chat again. I know it sounds super strange. Hello, Ellen. How are you doing? Good news, good news. All right. Well, and it was only a moderate mistake. But today I'm going to talk to you about, well, I mean, you already know what your mistake was, so you'll definitely be able to fix your fireworks shots for next time. And obviously we have to wait for fireworks. So this will be a resource you guys can go back to and watch again when your next fireworks session becomes available. I know what I'm trying to say. Hey, Stacy, thank you again for joining me today. Awesome. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's dive in here. If anybody is joining us after this, then there's always going to be the replay, so you guys can come back and watch it again. So I'm just going to get organized here a little bit, if I can. All right. Okay. Fabulous. Share screen. Screen 2. We can see it! Yay! All right, guys. So today we are talking all things fireworks. And we're going to talk all things fireworks for a few really key reasons. My job here today, and I promise I won't take too long because you guys are all busy and you've got places to go and things to see and people to meet and stuff to do. So my job here today, though, is to help us figure out how to avoid some of the biggest pitfalls that we come across when taking photos of fireworks. Things like, for example, let me get onto the right page here. Things like having blurry fireworks shots. Who doesn't like a blurry fireworks shot? I don't, okay? Very easy to accidentally take blurry fireworks shots. It's also super easy to get your timing wrong and to realize that, in fact, you have not captured fireworks. You have captured the empty abyss of deep, dark space. Not very useful when you're actually looking to get some fireworks. The other thing that often happens to us is that we end up catching too much fireworks. Oh my gosh, it gets so bright. There's no definition. Everything just gets a little bit nutsos. And that's also, not super ideal, particularly, one or the other. Let's see if we can find a happy medium today. The other thing that happens quite frequently with fireworks is that we get too much smoke. And sometimes this is really hard to avoid if you've got a particularly wind still day, but there are some things that we can do that will help us to avoid getting way too much smoke in our photographs. And then the final problem we're going to have a chat about fixing today is that we're just too dang far away or our setup isn't right. We're cutting off half of the fireworks or we're too far away from them, all of those kinds of things. So I am guessing that most of you guys have probably encountered at least one of these problems before with your fireworks photos. And so I am happy to say that I have the answers for you today. Okay. So let's dive into some of the tips here. Now, I think I have 7 tips in total that will help you guys to improve your fireworks shots so that you guys can start taking some truly spectacular or inspiring, very interesting, and a lot of fun fireworks photography. So let's dive in here. Tip number 1 goes like this. We get so worried about capturing the moment, we forget to breathe. Why does this matter? Because when we start taking photographs of fireworks, we always want to make sure that we have taken our time to frame the photograph properly. Okay, I'll show you some examples of what framing a photograph properly looks like in a moment, but this means doing things like arriving early. Okay, so you need to get yourself set up. You need to pick the right lens. You need to look at a different lens and see if maybe that lens was a better choice. You need to have an imagine about what it might be like when the fireworks start going in your subject scene in front of you. You need to figure out exactly what you think that frame might look like. So arrive early, choose the right lens, make a really good guess at it. And then once the fireworks start, and this is super duper duper important, team, you must adjust if you need to. There is nothing worse than getting to the end of this incredible fireworks display, looking back at your photos and realize that you weren't actually wide enough or high enough or zoomed enough, and you had cut off half of the fireworks that you intended to capture. There's nothing worse than this because you guys will find fireworks displays are long enough for you to make adjustments. So take a moment, have a look at those first couple of fireworks shots and make sure that your frame is right. Okay, so make sure that you have enough zoom to be able to capture what you're looking for. But in a photograph like this, also, it wouldn't have done us much good to focus in on the Calgary Tower, which is this big tower over here. It wouldn't have done us a lot of good to focus in on that because where are the fireworks? On this side of the city. So in a photograph like this, it's really key to make sure you're checking your photos so that you're getting the fireworks that you're looking for. Okay, in a photograph like this one's a little bit different. And in this instance, what we had noticed is when we came to this event in particular, we had this beautiful wind still clear day with the lake in front of the fireworks, and it created this beautiful reflection. Okay, so in the first few shots, we actually didn't capture the reflection. And this is the importance of adjusting and having a look as you go. As we went, we thought, wait a minute, there is this incredibly clear reflection coming off the water here. Let's change our composition setup. So let's change our frame so that we were capturing both top and bottom. Just for fun, why the heck not? Create some cool effects. So that is our tip number 1. Make sure you're taking the time to frame your photo properly. Okay, tip number 2 goes like this. Use a tripod. Just do it. It's annoying. It's painful, but it's necessary. Why is it so necessary? Because once we get down into our settings here, you guys will discover that hand holding a fireworks shot is just about damn near impossible. We need to have long enough shutter speeds that we can capture this full motion and this full array of beautiful fireworks, which means that I don't know about you guys, but I'm certainly not hand holding that thing still. I'm probably not even holding it still if I'm putting it on a backpack or a rock or a fence post. Just get your tripod. If you know there's going to be fireworks, take the extra few moments and just get your tripod. Because photographs like this one are simply not possible when you're holding it by hand. My father was actually at this display with me, and he was traveling all the way from Australia to visit us here in Canada. So he didn't bring his tripod, but he did want to come to this event, and he is a passionate photographer, and he takes amazing photos, and he gave it a go, hand holding all of his photos for this night. And let's just say when he shows fireworks shots from this evening, he's not showing his. He'll be showing mine. He kind of knew this. He had a ton of fun with it. He's a very great photographer, so it wasn't like he was surprised by this, but it's just damn near impossible, if not impossible, to get really stunning fireworks shots if you're trying to hold it by hand. Okay, so that's my major tip number 2. Get your tripod. Take the effort, set it up, frame your shot properly. It is so 100 million% worth it. All right, tip number 3. A shutter release is a really big help here because what you can do with a shutter release is you can trigger your shot exactly when you want it to go as opposed to waiting for your 2-second timer delay. when you have to add those 2 seconds in advance, it makes it much harder to time your fireworks shots. And also you're missing 2 seconds in between. We can't just go open shutter, close shutter, open shutter, close shutter, open shutter, close shutter. What we have is we've got wait, open shutter, close shutter, wait, open shutter, close shutter. So we're actually missing the opportunity to capture all of those beautiful fireworks in between here, okay? So what is a shutter release? A shutter release is a way that you can actually manipulate, you can open and close your shutter without actually having to touch your camera. Why is this important? Because when we touch our camera, we are moving it. Okay, and because when we're touching our camera, it moves, it creates that blur in our image again. And so the 2-second timer delay is a great way to touch your camera and then let your camera settle before it takes the photo. So 2-second timer delay is a really good option. But if you can get your shutter release hooked up and ready to go, that's going to be even better, because then you actually get to go one after another without touching your camera. So shutter releases are generally not super expensive. It's a little bit of a pain to find one that fits your camera. Do some Google research on it and then go and get yourself one. They're totally and utterly worth it and really, really fantastic for fireworks. Otherwise, taking a photograph, I didn't actually mean to put this one in here, but that's okay. Taking a photograph like this one, I did actually. I lie. But basically what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to time your shot so that as soon as the fireworks start leaving the base here, where the display is, we can capture all of this. A 2-second timer delay would likely mean, and you have to predict it, that you would miss some of the composition of a particular photograph like this one, okay? Shutter release, it's worth it. It's totally going to change your life. All right, on to tip number 4. Check your photos. I said this already, but I'm going to say this again. I said check your photos for your composition, but here's the next thing you need to check your photos for. You need to check your photos to make sure your shutter speeds are okay, and then you need to adjust as needed. See, team, the thing here is when I give you guys some starting shutter speeds and some starting settings, that is all up for change. It's all up for change based on how far away you are from the event. How dark it is. Is it a particularly dark night, or is it just dusk, or are there a lot of street lights around? It depends on how much ambient light is coming off. It depends on so many different factors that my starting settings for you are literally just that, just starting settings. So what you need to do is after you've taken the first few photos, you need to go back, look at them again, and look at this and say, is my shutter speed too long? And you'll know your shutter speed is too long if they're overexposed, so there's really, really, really bright, or there's too much smoke, okay? Which means that you're getting the whole fireworks plus all of the extra stuff that comes off the end of the fireworks, right? All of that smoke. And in that case, must adjust your shutter speed. The other way that your shutter speed might be incorrect is that it is too short. You're not getting enough bang for your buck, so to speak, okay? And in that case, you need to lengthen out your shutter speed so that you're capturing the beautiful explosion of the fireworks. Now, keep in mind, guys, this requires a little bit of adjustment, so you have to take a breath. Give yourself the time and the space to fix your problems, because all you need from this event is one really awesome fireworks shot for it to be worth it. And if you do not take the time and space to make sure your shot is going to work, then you're going to end up with 50 million awful fireworks photos that you probably could have fixed at some point in time. So take your time, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. And then make sure that you're adjusting for your shutter speed, okay? Right, so adjusting for our shutter speed allows us to capture things like this, where we're getting just enough, it's not too bright, but it allows us to capture multiple bursts of fireworks at any one time. Super cool. Again, if it's any shorter than this, we're missing out on half of the fireworks, or half of the fireworks are not exploding. If it's any longer than this, it becomes too bright and overblown. So you do have to spend a bit of time balancing your shutter speed. All right. Tip number 5, and I hope you guys are sticking with me here. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Tip number 5. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is I want you to manually focus for this exercise. The reason I want you to manually focus is that what you're doing by using autofocus in this case is you are asking your camera to fix focus on fireworks as they are exploding. Okay, because you need to have something for your camera to focus on. Now, this may or may not work, but what you're doing is you're delaying the time that it takes for you to start that photo. You can't start the photo until your camera has focused. So you'll want to be using manual focus. Now, here's a tip with manual focus. When you're taking photos of fireworks, you're not right on top of them. So it doesn't really matter if your focus is just a little bit off in terms of distance from your actual fireworks. So the key here is to choose a subject that is near your fireworks and is illuminated so you can manually focus on it. Okay, the reason we want to be manually focusing before we start is so that we don't miss a single moment. And here's the other key, team. Now we are checking for framing to make sure our fireworks fit in our frame. We are checking for our exposure to make sure they're not too bright or too dark. And the final thing that we are absolutely checking for is to make sure that they are in focus. Okay, if we haven't focused properly, it's going to drive you absolutely nutsos when you get home again, because you will realize that every single one of those shots are blurry. You're on manual focus. Your camera's not fixing it for you. So you'd better dang well make sure they are in focus. So this is part of your setup process when you're setting up your frame, and you also want to be setting up your manual focus on a subject that is near where your fireworks will be. Now, here's my final word of warning and advice for this. If you are adjusting your frame, so if you're zooming in or out, or you're moving your frame up or down or side to side, you will need to recheck your focus. You cannot assume that it is close enough, because as we know in photography, when it comes to focus, close enough is not good enough. It needs to be spot on. So if you're making adjustments to your framing, to where you're zooming, to how it looks, make sure you're also checking your focus again. All right. So checking our focus means that we can take photographs like this. Our camera just wouldn't have had time to focus on this properly and capture all of the starbursts before the moment has passed. So manually focus before your fireworks starts, and then make sure you're checking. Check, check, check. All right, next up, here are what our settings look like. So if you guys have a pen and a piece of paper, you might want to scribble these ones down, but this is a really good quality place to start. And I emphasize this because, again, guys, your situation will be different every time you grab your camera and your lens and you head out there to take some fireworks shots. So make sure that you are checking your photos and adjusting as needed. But here's what we're looking at. We're going to be looking at ISO of 100. You're putting it on a tripod and we're looking for a longer exposure, so don't increase your ISO. Leave it at 100. We're going to start our aperture at around f8. Now, this is an interesting aperture choice, isn't it? Because what we are used to is, for big, broad landscape shots like this one, we're used to really closing down our aperture so that we get crystal clear clarity from top to bottom, side to side, no background blur. But here's the key about firework photography. We need to be able to balance the amount of light coming in through our aperture with our shutter speed. So we don't really, most of the time, we actually don't want shutter speeds that are a whole lot longer than 4 or 5 seconds, okay? Once our shutter speeds get up above 4 or 5 seconds, depending on your situation, for sometimes it can work when it's longer, but depending on your situation, what happens is you get too many fireworks, you get too much smoke, and it becomes too bright. So we have to keep our shutter speeds around that 4 to 5 second mark, which means that if we close our aperture down to around our f11 or f18, which is what we're used to, our shutter speeds are going to get too long, okay? So this is why we need to keep our aperture somewhere in the middle there, somewhere around 8. We've got 7.1, 6.3, you know, whatever it kind of ends up being there. And that is how we're going to manage that shutter speed as well, so that it does not become too long. Now, your fireworks are far away, so you don't need to worry about having your blur in the background at f8. Everything will be nicely crystal clear, top to bottom, side to side, as long as you are checking your focus. So make sure you're checking your focus there too. All right, so there are fantastic starting settings. You will need to adjust these as you go, because, again, as I said, every situation is different. What has worked for me in the past in one particular area does not necessarily work the same way in another area. So please make sure you are checking as you go. All right. That is how we manage to create beautiful images like this one. This is literally taken at those settings, and it works. Again, if you've got more ambient light around, then maybe the settings won't work quite the way you need them to, so you'll need to be doing some adjustment, okay? Now, our final tip is this. Have fun, go wild. Once you're happy with your composition, your focus, your exposure, then keep your shutter going. Open, close, open, close, open, close, and just see what incredible formations you can capture. once you've got it organized, just have some fun with it and see what you can capture. This was all captured during one fireworks display, and they're all different and fun and unique and cool, right? And so by keeping the shutter going over and over again, it allows us to see all of the different cool, unique things that we can capture. But the key here is this: you must make sure your settings are working before you start open, close, open, close, open, close, okay? If I didn't check these photos before I started taking them, I would have no guarantee that any of them were going to work out, in which case I might have just ruined my entire fireworks session. Instead, I took a breath, I took my time, I fixed a few things, and then once it was right, we just went and had a ton of fun. All right, team. So that finishes off. Hold on, I'm just going to stop sharing. That finishes off my portion of the fireworks session today. I hope those 7 tips are going to give you guys the pieces of information that you are missing in your fireworks photography, and I hope that they also give you some inspiration to get back out there and give it another go. Don't be intimidated when things don't work out the first time. There's always a way to figure out what's going on and to fix that problem. Okay, guys, so make sure that you're getting back out there and you are giving it a shot. All right, awesome sauce. Now, team, there's only one other thing that I wanted to put out there to our community group at the end of this presentation today. We have a brand new Photography in Focus cohort starting next week on Wednesday, September 21st. So if you guys are watching this and you have not dived in to our 12-week incredibly interactive and hands-on online photography course, then you guys are missing out. And now is your opportunity to dive right in. Usually this program is priced at $9.97, but we are trialing out a slightly different structure and a very different price point, which means that you guys can come into this amazing, transformative, life-changing 12-week program for just $4.97. So I want you guys to really seriously consider doing this. If so much of this information isn't making sense to you, then now is the time to figure it out. I want to see you there, and I want to see how successful you can become as the photographer of your dreams. So I'm going to pop the link in there as well. You can go to our enroll page and check out all of the details, but hop on board because you will totally find it's worth it. You are worth investing in, and it's going to be amazing. Now, guys, if you have any more questions for me, even if you're watching the replay, please feel free to pop them in the chat here. I absolutely love hearing your questions. I love hearing where you guys are at. That's what this is about. It's about meeting you where you're at. And I hope today that this how-to on fireworks has been useful. And now we just need to go and get some fireworks. All right, guys. Yes, I am yes, Karen, absolutely. This will be recorded, and give it like, if you're just hopping on now, give it about 5 minutes, and then it will come back to the top of the group again, and you'll be able to watch the whole thing from the beginning. And team, the next time you have some trouble with fireworks, if you search in our Learn Photography community, I'm going to hashtag it with fireworks. So if you just search on the side, it says topics down the side there, and you can search for the topic called fireworks and find this video again whenever you need it. It's going to be awesome. Now, I cannot wait to get you guys back on board again with all of this. Let me know how you are doing and how I can help. And thank you all so much for joining me today. It is always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.